Welcome to the Note Nuggets podcast, where you can learn how to become the bank, build wealth, and accumulate streams of income perfect for your savings or IRAs. You'll hear from industry experts, seasoned veterans, and everyday investors. Our goal is to teach you how to invest in notes, one nugget of knowledge at a time. Here's your host, Kevin Galang.
Welcome to another episode of the Note Nuggets podcast, where you learn how to turn others' debt into income for your savings or IRA. As note investors, we have plenty of advantages. We are protected by the collateral we secured our note with. We don't have to worry about maintenance like single family or apartment investors, nor do we have excessive turnover of tenants. Another advantage of being a note investor is that you can work with the borrower to help them stay in their home. Of course, this only applies to non-performing notes because with performing notes, as long as the borrower is making their monthly principal and interest payments, there's no need to collaborate with them. If the note is non-performing or goes from performing to non-performing, which is always a risk, then it's usually advantageous to understand the borrower's story. In fact, I know at least one investor who would argue that working with the borrower is the most lucrative exit as a note investor. She was on last week's Note Nugget episode that you can check out at notenuggets.com/right-thing. We're going to be carrying on this theme of working with the borrower for this week's Note Nugget. Our guest breaks down the 3 key questions he asks his borrowers to learn more about them and their situation. Before we dive into this week's Note Nugget, let's learn about our guest. You might know Rob from U.S. Mortgage Resolution, where he has played an instrumental role in the development of a premier distressed debt investment firm. Rob handled pricing, due diligence, asset management, sales, and resolutions for over 10,000 loans over his tenure with the company. In 2017, Rob launched Fix Notes LLC, where you can find them at fixnotes.com, with the goal of building one of the strongest brands in the secondary mortgage market. Fix Notes offers the highest quality, most comprehensive mortgage note-related content in the industry, all for free. And as of 2020, you can find Rob live streaming his weekly real estate show, Be the Bank, every Wednesday, 1 p.m. Eastern, on Fix Notes' YouTube channel. So with somebody that's been in the note investing space for a while and providing these resources, I'm sure people have come to you to learn more about note investing. What would you say most people get confused about when it comes to being the lender?
Yeah, so I think right off the bat, it's sort of a shock that you can own the right to someone else's mortgage. People don't really get that. And that's maybe the first question. So you can buy someone else's mortgage. But then when you start to break through those initial questions, it becomes pretty easy to understand if you've ever gotten a mortgage on your own home. Because the first thing, like really as soon as you originate the loan, is already being sold. And you're going to get a RESPA letter from another servicer, another lender, that the account's being moved. And you can sort of translate that into the other side of the transaction, being the investor, the lender. You're doing the same thing. You're acquiring a loan from another bank's portfolio, and that's being transferred, which is just a regular part of the secondary market. So as far as the confusion, it sort of starts out in the same place that a real estate investor would start out. You don't know anything, and you need to just edge into the water until you understand a little bit and a little bit more. So you're right when you mentioned the Fix Notes course and the glossary I included with all of the different terms and the lingo that you need to understand. Everything feels like a foreign language at first, but as you get into it, you'll slowly pick it up. So it's hard to say one thing because really everything is confusing at first. Sure. But then it will become a second language and you'll get used to it.
Yeah, I would also make an argument that it's less intuitive. What I mean by that is you talk about physical assets. You can touch, smell, see. I guess you could, in theory, taste real estate, a self-storage facility or an apartment. It's easier to understand because it's there, it's physical. But when you talk about the debt and the paper, it's like, wait, well, there's a gap there. So that's what I find people get confused upon as well.
Yeah, it is a little bit esoteric in that regard. You're buying paper, and really it's just a bundle of documents.
Yeah, but it's just as strong. And I'd make the argument that it's a stronger asset because of the ability to make as many exits as you can see as the lender. So, but we can digress on that later.
But the laws have really been written with the lender's input. The lobbyists that the lenders are implementing to create the law is a lot stronger than the homeowner in a lot of cases. So unfortunately for borrowers that are in tough spots, the lender has a lot more power than the borrower does. So it is something to consider when you become the lender, when you become the bank. You're sort of benefiting from all of the history that goes into this process.
And with the right type of person, type of investor, you can solve somebody's problem. I mean, let's face it, when it comes to COVID-19 was a great example to showcase how many people were operating so thinly when it comes to their expenses, right? Whether you lost a job or it's a medical bill, not very many people have that nest egg to weather that type of a storm, but you can come into the situation as a lender and say, hey, how can we work together? And that's what I love about Notes.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. It's about helping the borrowers. And when we see these large portfolios of charged off loans on the bank balance sheet that really become these zombie foreclosures or these assets that never really reach any positive resolution, as a private investor in this space, we're able to acquire these portfolio of loans that are almost forgotten and then turn them into resolutions that benefit the homeowner. And really the name of the game for us, at least, is to keep the borrower in the home, because that's the path of least resistance when you're buying loans across the whole country. You want that borrower there to be able to upkeep the asset. So we ask 3 questions when we get in touch with the homeowner. What happened? Where are you now? And what do you want to do? And based on the answers to those 3 questions, we can craft a resolution that fits their financial situation and ideally their goals going forward.
Is that how you fix Notes? Sorry, I had to throw it in there.
Exactly.
I love it. Those 3 questions are critical.
What happened? Where are you now? And what do you want to do?
That is definitely something we're going to include in the show notes, and that is a fantastic nugget. Those 3 can answer so much. You let the borrower talk to them, and that's where you can come in, is be a person. That when you're dealing with Wells Fargo, first of all, if you ever tried to call their customer service, you have to hit operator or say operator like 16 times. Now imagine you're a frustrated borrower. That's just not gonna help your situation.
And you can never talk to the same person twice.
You know the idea of spending 10,000 hours on something and becoming a master at it? Well, with over 10,000 notes under his belt, Rob is definitely an expert at mortgage notes, which is why he's able to share those 3 specific critical questions he asks his borrowers. To learn more from Rob and get access to the full interview with him, head over to notenuggets.com/3-questions. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the Note Nuggets podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the show to get access to additional weekly value nuggets and get notified with episode updates. To subscribe, all you have to do is head over to subscribe.notenuggets.com. If you have any questions about this episode or note investing, book a time on Kevin's calendar at contact.notenuggets.com. We'll see you next week with another note nugget to add to your tool belt.